Today I'm going to be working on my 2005 Silverado 1500 with the 5.3 liter. I'm going to be upgrading this 145 amp alternator to this 160 amp alternator along with the tensioners, both belts, and the idler pulley. First things first, I got to get this thing torn apart so that we can get better access to everything we're going to be working on. Alright, so I removed the air intake and I'm going to go ahead and make note of the belt diagram and get the belt taken off. I'm going to be using this 15mm socket on the Serpentine Belt tool to get this belt off. Alright, now I'm going to be using a 3/8 extension to get this tensioner for the AC belt. Alright, let's get this idler pulley off. I'm going to use a 15mm. For the Serpentine Belt tensioner, there's going to be three 15mm bolts. Alright. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do before I remove this alternator is I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the battery. Make sure I don't accidentally ground myself out. So I got this battery disconnect switch. Just flip that up. Should be no more charge going through the truck. So now I can go back here and get this nut removed. Go ahead and take off this cover and get this unplugged right here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and unplug this connector right here. Take note that this is the 2-plug alternator. I know that there's a 4-plug one as well. Going to take off this power cable. Set that off to the side. Alright, we got two more 15mm bolts here for the alternator. Now that we've got those two bolts removed, we're going to go ahead and get the alternator out. Mine seems to be a little stuck, so I'm going to use a pry bar. Transitioning underneath the car, the last thing we're going to get is the belt tensioner for the air conditioning. It's going to be these two bolts right here. I'm going to go ahead and get those off. Alright, we got all of our old parts out. Got them side by side with the new parts just to compare and make sure everything looks the same. And everything seems to line up. All the plugs are in the same spot. The bolt holes are looking good. This Dorman idler pulley, you could tell that this one is kind of sunken in. It's a different design, but it's the same height and it sits in the same exact position and it's the same diameter. So it should work just fine. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and start installing all the new parts. I'm going to go ahead and start with the alternator and work on the two tensioners in the idler pulley, and then we'll get the belts installed. Before we get the alternator put into place, we're going to need to pull these spacers back. I already broke them both loose with a hammer. I'm just going to make sure I get them pulled back as far as I can with some pliers. Make space for the alternator to get put in. I think that's about as far as I'm going to be able to get them to go back in. Now we can get our alternator set into place, just like that. We can get our two bolts, get them started. And just a reminder that these are 15mm bolts. Go and get these snugged up. And once we get these tightened down, we should see that spacer between the bolt and the bracket should press against the alternator. So as I start tightening this bolt, you're going to see this spacer press through the hole of the bracket and tighten. Now that our bolts are tight, I'm going to go ahead and get these connectors plugged in. One there, and get this cable installed. I'm going to use my 10mm wrench to tighten it down. Get it snugged up. I'm actually going to pull it down a little bit, get some tension off that line. There you go. Cover it with the shield. The alternator's good. Alright, let's get the Serpentine Belt tensioner on. Now that we got the AC belt tensioner installed, I'm going to go ahead and throw in the new AC belt. Alright, we got the AC belts installed. Fought me a little bit, but I finally got it on. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the Serpentine belt. Alright, we got the new Serpentine belt installed. That idler pulley that I had installed actually wasn't the correct part. The bolt would bottom out before it could tighten against the idler pulley. I didn't notice that until I was trying to get the belt on. So I had to go ahead and put the old one on for now. I'm going to go ahead and order another one on Amazon and make sure I get the right one. And then I'll have to come back and replace that again. But we've got everything back. Let's go ahead and get the intake put on and this top cover and reconnect the battery, and then we'll give it a test start. Alright, we got everything buttoned up. In case anybody was wondering, I did install this Air-Aid Junior intake system. It comes with this hose with the silencer box removal and a drop-in filter. I really like this unit. It sounds nice and deep at low RPMs when climbing on the highway. I couldn't say if it improved your miles per gallon. I don't know. But let's go ahead and get the truck started up now that everything is buttoned up and installed. And let's see how it looks. All right, we got the truck running. Everything looks to be nice and lined up. And we can see that our voltage is looking good. Strong charge, 14.5 volts almost. Very impressed with this 160 amp alternator. Hopefully I'll have less sag whenever doing things like rolling down the windows or turning on headlights. You know, sometimes the lights would flicker whenever I would turn something on. So hopefully this is going to help with that. Also, I was having an issue with parasitic draw, and I believe that the issue was that the alternator, one of the components inside the alternator was drawing power while the truck was off. That's why I installed this disconnect switch real quick, so that whenever I left it overnight, I could disconnect it and not have to worry about it in the morning. So I'm going to leave it for a night with the battery connected and see if it stays charged. And if it dies again, then I'm going to have to figure something else out. It could be a bad ground. It could be uh, something else drawing power, like the radio or something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it down